It's not always about lust. Sometimes it's loneliness. Sometimes a desire to feel power. And sometimes it's a cry for help no one heard. These are the stories of women living in the early 2000s, France, Italy, Germany, and all they ever wanted was to be seen. This is the Betrayal channel. Here we tell stories that are usually hidden, stories where the truth is too personal and the wounds are too fresh. Betrayal is rarely sudden. Write to our channel, leave a comment, what you think is important to us.
France, 2002. Neglect, Paris, October. Evening. The city breathes dampness and slow melancholy. The streets are nearly empty. A fine rain blurs the outlines of rooftops and peeling shutters. The air smells of wet leaves, stone and frozen silence. In the distance, the Bois de Boulogne disappears into mist. The lampposts along the Seine glow dimly, like faded memories. Elaine walks alone, her shoulders slightly hunched. Her burgundy coat has faded on her shoulders, tired from the weight of time. In her hand is an old bag containing an Italian course dictionary, a scarf, keys, and something she no longer feels, the desire to return. Once her home was a fortress, filled with the scent of vanilla, baby shampoo, and morning coffee. Her husband laughed loudly, and the kids climbed into her lap with books. Then life had a rhythm. Soup on the stove, a shopping list for the pharmacy, new curtains, and evening TV together. But over the years, that fortress turned into a prison with soft pillows. Not because of scandal or anger, but because of silent, polite neglect. Each morning was exactly the same. He said bonjour over his newspaper. She placed a cup in front of him. He left. She stayed behind. It seemed they had become neighbors bound by a project called family. He never yelled or raised a hand. He simply stopped looking at her. And she, slowly, vanished. At first it was small things. No more perfume. No more beloved rings. Then her laughter disappeared. And finally, she stopped speaking of herself altogether. Tonino appeared almost by accident. The Italian course was a birthday gift from a friend, so you'd get out of the house. So she left, sat at a wooden desk, took out a notebook, and watched a man at the board who spoke less with words and more with his eyes and gestures. Tonino wasn't handsome, but he was alive. He remembered her name, asked what she was cooking for dinner, called her Bella Giornata, Signora Elaine, with a voice that sounded genuinely happy to see her. He laughed gently at her mistakes, never condescending, inviting her simply to be herself. And suddenly Elaine realized she missed herself. The woman who once felt interesting, the one someone listened to, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. There was no flirtation with Tonino, only eyes that genuinely looked at her and a voice that called her by name. An environment where she wasn't just an appendage to someone's life, but a being worthy of attention. That night, she didn't cross any lines, but standing by her kitchen window, looking at her reflection in the glass, she didn't see a housewife, a mother.
Genoa, late July. A day sealed in amber stands still. The heat presses. Quiet, not harsh, but heavy and sticky. The air seems paralyzed in the alleyways like the breath before a scream. From open windows drift radio songs, ice clinking in glasses, and the lazy murmurs of old women. By the sea it's fresh, but in the heart of the city even the seagulls keep quiet. Angela, 41, sits by her kitchen window. The tiles feel cold under her bare feet. Before her is a cup of coffee, already cold. On the sill sits a basil plant in a clay pot. Everything is the same, as it's been for 15 years. She is married to Carlo. He has two passions, business and watches, expensive timepieces, a successful business. But toward her, he is as steady as a balance sheet. He brings money home, pays for vacations, gives her gold earrings on her birthday. He does everything right, except the most important thing. He doesn't see her. Once they were in love, dancing barefoot, eating ice cream in bed, laughing in two-part harmony. Now their marriage resembles a tidy museum, clean, orderly, untouchable. Carlo wakes early, eats breakfast in silence, kisses her cheek and leaves. In the evening, it's the news, phone calls, fatigue. He never asks what her dreams are. He hasn't even noticed what she reads. Angela stopped speaking, not because she had nothing to say, but because it felt meaningless. Then something shifted, not suddenly, but almost imperceptibly. In a supermarket, at the wine aisle, she runs into Marco. He is holding a bottle of Chianti and smiles at her knowingly. "You still choose the same dry red," he says. They were classmates once. He works at a print shop and lives in the suburbs. Nothing special, but in his gaze there is a softness, warmth, recognition she's missed for so long. He doesn't flatter her. He simply looks at her as if she's real, whole, alive. They meet a few times, coffee, bench talks, rain where no one hides. He doesn't ask her to walk away or proclaim her beauty. He is just there, right when she most feels her emptiness. And she, almost without noticing, realizes. Next to him, she's not performing, not awaiting approval, not keeping her posture perfect. Just speaking, just silent, just breathing. This wasn't love. It was a return to herself. One rainy evening, she says to him, "You know this is wrong." He nods. "That I'd choose this mistake again, if it meant having you." Their affair doesn't last long, but it remains like an open window in a stifling house, a reminder that air still exists, and that perhaps it's not too late to learn to live again.
Hamburg, January. Wet snow drifts lightly, as if the city doesn't want to wake yet. A gray sky hangs low, like a ceiling over a tired head. The damp streets reflect windows, trolleybuses, and umbrellas of hurrying pedestrians. There's always a faint scent of coffee and urban steel, something strangely like loneliness. Miriam, 36, opens the door to her office. Everything about her is impeccable. Thin heels, crisp white collar, neatly gathered hair. Even her smile measured. Not too warm, not too cool. Everything as expected. Everything allowed. At home, Philip, her husband, an engineer, reliable, calm. He doesn't stage scenes, doesn't ask questions, doesn't interfere. He is a sturdy wall, and she is the grapevine that clings but never blooms. They have no children, not because they couldn't, but because everything came at the wrong time. First came careers, then a mortgage, then silence. On weekends, they quietly drink tea, plan IKEA purchases, read the same paper in silence. He praises her professional successes, but he never asks, "Are you happy?" Miriam yearned to be heard, not just respected or functional, to be seen, acknowledged, not for perfection, but for her fragile thread of pain and longing beneath. Then it happens. At a corporate presentation, she meets Robert. He is 6 years younger, emotionally intense, too bright, too unstructured, not her type, yet. But when he looks at her, it's like he sees inside. He writes her letters, by hand, not email. He says, "You have no idea how deep you are." She smiles, not from love, but from astonishment. Because for the first time in years, someone notices not just her intellect or discipline, but her real self. She resists, knowing the right way. One evening, she stays after work just to talk, just to hear her unfiltered voice, just to let her hair down. And suddenly she realizes she's no longer afraid of being wrong. There's no future with Robert, and she knows that. He's like a spark in darkness, transient, but reminding her that light is still possible. After their brief, almost platonic closeness, she returns home, takes off her coat, puts on the kettle, looks at Philip, and for the first time says, "I feel like I'm losing myself. Not because you're bad, but because I don't feel seen. I need you to see me, hear me, want me." He looks at her in silence. This isn't a scandal or tragedy. It's a chance or a last call.
This isn't about infidelity. It's about loss. Sometimes it doesn't begin with unfaithfulness, but with a pause. The chill between two morning coffees. The silence where laughter once lived.
The betrayals we've shared aren't always physical. They happen internally. When a woman stops speaking because no one listens. When she stops expecting because no one returns.
Elen, Angela, Miriam. They didn't seek passion or men. They sought themselves, who they were before they became someone's. This isn't an excuse, it's an attempt to understand. Visual cue. A slow pan by windows across anonymous homes, some lighted, some dark. A couple eats dinner in silence. A woman stands in her bathrobe before a mirror, her eyes weary, life on autopilot. Now, a question for you. When was the last time you really looked into the eyes of someone next to you and actually saw them? Not as a role, not as a function, but as a living person, with pain, with anxiety, with loneliness. Sometimes all it takes is asking, "Are you okay?" and truly listening to the answer. This was Betrayals. If this stirred something within you, subscribe, leave a comment. We read every word, because behind each story is someone real.